suddenly that kind of loss, it's like kind of hits you on an identity level.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Tuxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business. Georgia Kirke is on a mission to use the power of written word to shape the next generation of entrepreneurs. From growing up in a farming community as one of 8 siblings, to branching out into the world of non-fiction writing and business book publishing, Georgia discusses her journey in becoming a business owner, fronting Right Business Results, and most recently, ClioBooks. Georgia is a true entrepreneur who stays aligned to her own vision and lets nothing get in her way. Georgia's incredible resilience shows in her personal life, where she touches upon her toughest moment, where in January 2020, she was involved in a climbing accident, which nearly resulted in the amputation of her leg. As well as business, family is also a key driver in Georgia's makeup. The unexpected loss of her dad left a deep impact on her overall decision-making process and how she runs her businesses today. It's a reminder that you never know what's around the corner, but Georgia's founding mission is why she's become a successful woman in business today.
Georgia, welcome to People Behind Brands podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Mark. I'm good, thanks. Excited to be here.
Good. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Gravesend in my little office in town.
Lovely. Excellent. So Georgia became a valued client of Making Websites Better as we assisted her Right Business Results with a wide range of digital marketing services over the years. Right Business Results empowers entrepreneurs to share their ideas, knowledge and stories through services such as book writing and editing to publishing and marketing business books from a wide range of different industries. Whilst her other business, ClioBooks.ai, provides AI-assisted planning, recording and editing of popular books and was developed a little over a year ago. Georgia and her team are best placed to turn your vision into reality. So obviously the nature of this podcast will touch upon the business side, but we also delve deeper into Georgia's unique story and what makes her who she is today as we go in search of more life lessons from the world of business. So Georgia, first question. Perhaps you can take us through your early years and how you worked your way up the career ladder before starting your own business journey.
So I didn't know really what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something kind of innovative. So I kind of was aware of like traditional career paths and that didn't appeal. The career for life concept didn't feel like me and I didn't really feel like I fitted. And I'd had that experience through school as well. So I was quite open-minded, but I was also like excited to discover what my thing could be. And so I went to uni. It was important for me to have that experience. But I did something non-vocational. I did English literature because I've always loved books and the stories they contain. I love books as a social commentary. I love books as an educational resource for escapism. I just kind of didn't realise that was any different to anybody else at that stage. I just thought that was just a part of life. So I worked through that degree. I spent a year traveling and I wanted to work in business, but again, I didn't know exactly in what capacity. So I did a 2-year graduate training program with Caterpillar's UK dealership Finning. So I worked in heavy construction for a couple of years, but on the commercial side. From there, I did a master's. I just needed to hit the reset button. Big corporate work wasn't quite it, but I did really value my time at Finning and I was mentored by some incredible people. So I did my master's in political communication. We covered political economy as well, which was fascinating. And let me see, from there I focused on sales, worked for event sponsorships. That's where I learned to sell high tickets. That was kind of like terrifying in a way because, you know, the targets and the way you've just got to go after it, but amazing. From there, I went into business coaching at Strategic Coach, and that was where I really got to grips with entrepreneurship. And I looked after about 100 entrepreneurs in their UK program, and that I really understood then how important process is to support the mind of a creative and commercial individual.
Yeah, so I noticed while doing some research ahead of this episode that you've had roles in your past career which have given you expertise in obviously consultancy, sales and marketing that you just touched upon. So how do you think those experiences helped you when fronting your own businesses?
I think fronting your own business, as you'll appreciate, Mark, it's full of challenges, right? Because there are certain principles that you need to adhere to, and then there are certain other situations you've got to navigate, and actually you need experience for that, and you don't always have the experience you need, and you don't always have the who that you need to delegate to. There are lots of lessons to be learned. So I think really what was important about my prior experiences was the exposure it gave me to people, and people that operate at a certain level, because in the world of business it's all about high performance, but also I realized when I realized I was one of those people that, and I had those same aspirations, and I realized that was the world that I fitted in and now needed to evolve within and develop within. Then I understood that all the things I've been criticised for in the more uniform systems like school and like sort of systems with too much structure, is that you need a little bit of it. You just can't have too much. When you're an entrepreneur, if you have too much structure, you're just completely restricted. It's completely claustrophobic, and you can't be innovative and do the things you need to do. You don't have the freedom to fail even. So how can you achieve too much? But when you have a bit of process, it's just there just to support the creativity and the innovation. My biggest lesson was that enables whatever I put out there to be reproduced on a reliable basis, and that consistency is absolutely vital for a great customer experience. So I feel like the biggest exposure to me was the healthy kind of process, but also people, both in terms of client experience and also building a team.
Yeah, completely agree. So as we come on to Right Business Results now and other business opportunities that you're involved in, tell us about the story behind the company and what your idea was behind it all in the first place.
Well, as I mentioned, I've always loved books, and I didn't realise that was different to many other people. And through working with a lot of entrepreneurs, there was this like deep recognition that they are all unique. They themselves understood that they're unique and why they're unique. But they all had a similar challenge, which was getting everybody else to understand that. And a lot of small businesses, especially services businesses, as you'll know, the main business typically comes from referrals. So you do a really good job, and word of mouth spreads, and you get introductions, and those leads are very high quality. But when you look to do business with outside of your referral network, with people who don't automatically know you and don't have anybody else in their world to vouch for you, then it's a slightly different experience. So people coming to me and saying, how do I get this message out there, and how do I reach more people and show them like I love what I do and this is how unique we are. And a lot of people would also just say directly, like, I want to put my knowledge into a book. So I agreed that the right format for that type of sharing is a book. It's a very intelligent format. It's very long lasting. But there's clearly a myriad of challenges with traditional book writing processes. And that was what intrigued me.
When you think about the types of services that you offer for entrepreneurs, but also clients, obviously it's business book related. So what type of clients are you working with, and what type of services can you provide to that client?
So it's all non-fiction. We still haven't ventured into fiction, simply because entrepreneurs are the group of people I'm dedicated to, work with leaders. And the services of the complete 360 book production. We start with a plan. A lot of people know they want a book, but they don't know what to write about. That can be a barrier. Not only do they not have enough time to spend hundreds of hours tied to their keyboard, and they don't want to have that kind of restriction on their freedom anyway, but some people don't. They think they have to wait until they have their big idea in order to start. They don't. We help with that from the very start. So we reverse engineer the book concept so that it can be a commercial asset as well as a personal legacy item, all the way through the speaking or writing of your book, editing, proofreading, cover design, interior typesetting, publishing or self-publishing. We're publishing neutral, and we guide our entrepreneurs strategically to the right route to market. We have a bestseller book launch campaign. 100% of the books that we've launched with this campaign since January 2022 have become a #1 Amazon bestseller within a week. And we also provide ongoing consulting around the ongoing book marketing. Mark, the crucial part of this whole process is speak your book. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, as you probably know, are also dyslexic. Maybe they have ADHD. There's all sorts of neurodivergent traits that are occurring in, very kind of commercially productive people. And so even with someone to guide them through the writing process, I haven't ever really met many who really ideally want to spend anywhere up to 200 hours learning how to become a writer and then writing. Like, it's just not appealing. So we have a process that enables entrepreneurs to speak their book, and my team turns that content into manuscripts.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point that you mentioned about where, if people are suffering from dyslexia, then obviously that might put them off writing a book, for example. So your service really does help them to get their thought across. So I think that's a really good trait to have. But Right Business Results is coming up to 9 years now in business. So what made you want to go down the path of creating also ClioBooks, and how do both businesses complement each other now?
So ClioBooks was my original intention. When I sat down and mapped out that whole book creation process, in my head, it was always speak your book, and it was always automated, because I wanted entrepreneurs to be able to have the magic of a book without having to give up their freedoms, because that's really what drives us entrepreneurs, isn't it? It's freedom and it's choice. We want to earn good money whilst being able to choose where we work, who we work with, what we work on, over what time period. Traditional book writing methods threaten that individuality and that freedom of choice. So the whole process was actually designed to be so convenient. You could just grab your mobile phone and just speak your book. And it was only when I looked into it that I realized the technology, there was just nothing to build on. Like, I could imagine it, I could see it, but to actually make that product real nearly a decade ago was not possible. And it was only so that's why I created it as a service instead, a one-to-one consultancy service and a done for you service. And it wasn't until January 2023 that all of a sudden I realized that now was the time to work on my moonshot, which is Clio, because LLMs became a day-to-day, and all of a sudden everybody was talking about AI. So all of those kind of myths and misconceptions, but also the technological barriers had lifted. So I hired a tech team. I've been saving up for this for years, so I was able to bootstrap Clio through its first year. Hired a tech team, shared over 100 book creation processes that we've documented over the last 8.5 years, and worked closely with them to build the MVP Plus, which, now Clio's live. You can go in there free of charge. You can create your whole book plan, you can get a book outline, you can tinker with the chapters, get it how you want it, and just speak your book. And then there's upgrades in there for the different levels of post-production support.
If you cast your mind back to when you started out in business as an owner, did you feel there was a risk factor involved? Because obviously it could be like an easy way of just going to work for another business and implementing your ideas through that. So how did you sort of overcome those kind of risk or sort of fear of having your own business? I
was really scared. I knew that I wanted, but I needed to do it for myself, and it was about, my future, but also about like impacting others and all that kind of thing. So the reasons were all there. And I remember the morning I handed in my notice, and, to my manager at the time, I really respected him, still do, really, really liked him. He'd been nothing but supportive to me. And so it was really difficult. It was like leaving a kind of a safety net behind, but I knew it was inevitable. And then I put it off. And in mid-afternoon, my boyfriend at the time could hear, like, I hadn't come through, there'd been no update, and he knocked on the office door and was just like, Georgia, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, working. And you're just like, right, you're not supposed to be like, you're supposed to have dealt with that by now, just give them a call, you've got to just get it done. So I did need a little push.
Yeah, I think we all do, and I think it's it's that kind of moment of that is do or die, isn't it? I suppose when you create a business, but it certainly paved good sort of omens for you, really. But I know, having worked with you closely, you're passionate about your personal brand, but not just for yourself, but for your clients too. So why do you feel this approach is so important in the world of business today?
It's the old people buy from people, isn't it? But I think as well, if you're not willing to like stand behind the thing that you're selling, I don't, you know, I think that kind of says a lot. Like, it's different potentially when you're, if it's not your business, or if you're one cog in a very big machine. I think personal brand is even more important in that place, but I can see why it gets so lost. But I think when you're in a small business, like video content, I'm really uncomfortable with. My team have quite a hard time getting me behind a camera, but it still has to get done. And I just think we all know how it feels to get like blasted with advertising, cold email outreach. You know, everybody wants something from you all of the time. We're all getting pitched on things maybe we don't fully understand. We're all trying to manage budgets. So I just think it's important, really. Like, people have just got to be able to see you and know who you are.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned about that kind of, is it imposter syndrome, I guess, that you've got in front of a camera. But when I've watched you in talks, like, you come across really well. So why do you feel that you don't like doing video content, but you're obviously very comfortable doing, you know, speaking gigs?
Yeah, thanks. Well, thank you. That's a compliment. Probably a little bit of perfectionism.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I think that's it. I just want to do a good job for people and get it right, but then the opposite happens. Like, if I get in my head, then it gets really awkward, and I know that happens, and I think that's just what I'm like. I don't want that to happen, but just gotta, you know, get over it.
Yeah, I think it's a human trait, though, isn't it? But yeah, in amongst your busy schedule, you've also got involved in other podcasts, speaking on stage, as I mentioned just a minute ago, being the face that people can resonate with. So how do you feel about this side to your role, and where do you think that confidence or leadership comes from? Because I know you obviously just mentioned about your fears of being on camera, but where does that confidence come from?
The funny thing is, I love being on stage. So I don't know what it is. It's something about a video, like, specifically, but I love being on podcasts. Like, I love the conversation. Yeah, I love being on stage. I think I am really passionate about it. But leadership wise, I think I've always been in a leadership role, whether I've realized it or not. You know, I'm the oldest of 8 siblings. My parents are both entrepreneurial, creative, and very, very busy. So there was kind of like this, and we lived on a farm. There's this element of chaos, but then also this need for structure. And I think that essence is what I do in my businesses. I think it's that kind of bringing some kind of order to creative chaos. And it means that I appreciate that creativity as well. In fact, you know, and in fact, I love it and can get on very well with it. I just kind of like to put it into some sequence. And so I think it's probably just a behavior that I naturally had, and then got brought out a lot when I was really young from life experiences. And then in my career, I think it's just independence. I've always been an ideas person. So I love ideating. And when you work for someone else, you can't, you know, your ego cannot be that entertained. Like, you can't just take all these ideas and everyone be like, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. Like, naturally, it just interferes with the agenda. And, you know, you've just got to learn to align. And I don't do that very well when it comes to other people's stuff. Like, I've got my own vision, I've got my own mission. And it's really important to me that I can help people with that. Because for me, it's not just about entrepreneurship and business and making money and making impact. If I can democratize the written word, if I can give people access to the written word as a means of self-expression, it means that I may be able to make a positive dent in illiteracy, which has an impact on crime and political engagement and people's social abilities. And, you know, so I see it as part of a really quite big picture.
As you know, People Behind Brands podcast isn't here to just talk about business. We also want to get to know you, the real you. So away from the business, can you tell us about a challenging time in your personal life that has impacted you or changed your approach?
In January 2020, I was rock climbing and I fell, and I fell at a bad angle, and then sort of pivoted. And anyway, by the time the fall was over, both my leg bones had shattered in my left leg. My foot had twisted 180 degrees. My heel was where my toe should be, and vice versa. And
Wow.
it was just a mess. And when I got to hospital, I spent just over a month in hospital, had limb reconstruction surgery. I was told it might be a below the knee amputation. that had to be transferred because the technology, like it was just like a really difficult time. I didn't know what, then they said I could be in hospital for 3 months or more, and I had to be transferred. Anyway, eventually I got to London, where they had an amazing team and amazing technology, and they kind of put the leg back together and put the foot back on, and I had this like metal frame, and I had to learn to walk again. So I had the frame on for over half a year. And I was on a lot of medication. I had to inject myself in the stomach every day with blood thinners, and it was morphine. And all this time I had to run the business. I was 3-4 years into it at this point. Obviously, I got out of hospital. It was January. Got out of hospital in February, into a house me and my boyfriend had just bought. The sale went through the same week I had the accident. The work wasn't complete. It had no floor. There had no damp proofing. We just had to live in it with me not able to walk at all. And then the pandemic hit in March, and everything got shut down. So there was no physio or appointments available. So I just had to learn to walk again off YouTube. And so that was a really challenging year. And in that same year, the business grew by over 12,000%. Partly just because there's nothing much else I could do. I've just knuckled down. And then anyway, luckily, kind of got through that. We've got about 90% capability back in that ankle and foot now. And then a couple of years later, my dad passed away really suddenly in an accident. So it's just like this series of blows, and the business continues. So I know you said personal and business, but the two marry up.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, because it sounds like from what you just said there, you learnt to walk again, watching YouTube, right? Not a lot of people would do that. Not a lot of people would even think about doing that. So that shows your resilience to think, right, well, okay, I can't go and see a doctor because it's through COVID, or a physio through COVID, but I'll do it myself. And that's kind of how you've got into that sort of business ownership, I suppose, isn't it? You just want to do it yourself, Yeah,
it is, to be fair. I think, you can sit there moaning, or you can, it couldn't have any gravity against it. So I'll be sitting down and the leg would be like up here somewhere. And, I just thought, well, instead of focusing on what I can't do, why don't I think about what I can do? I can type, I can think, I can speak. That was my whole business anyway. It's always a remote camera about business results. So just cracked on.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that your dad obviously passed in, sadly. So how much of an impact do you think that he had on your life?
Massive impact, because he was a really big character, and there had been some challenges. And so on the one hand, he was like this major role model, and on the other hand, in other ways he wasn't. And suddenly that kind of loss, it's like kind of hits you on an identity level, as well as just in all the normal ways. And me and my siblings, some of us had always stayed in touch, and some of the others had chosen not to through a period of time in the run up to this happening, kind of part of the way Dad kind of wanted things at a certain point in time. And so it was like this bittersweet experience. I was with him when he passed. There was 24 hours between the accidents and then turning off the life support. So I was able to get up to Lincolnshire and sit with him. And anyway, he wasn't awake, but all I did was really talk to him and just kind of say all the good things, really, that could have been said before and just weren't. So I think for me, that gave me a great sense of peace. And it gave me the opportunity to reflect on all the great things that he had ever done and said, and all the traits that he had given to me and passed on. So it was a point at which I thought, what will his legacy, what is his legacy, and what can I help take forwards? And he was this, a fantastic creative thinker, an entrepreneur, very, very, very strong character. And so I took a lot away from that experience. And then it was also the point at which me and my siblings, the two kind of camps reconnected. So whatever had been separating us before, we realised that didn't need to continue, and everybody came back together.
Working on your own business, obviously, I know you mentioned earlier that we're all time poor. So it all, involves a lot of hours and drive. So how much of an impact does that have on your personal life with your partner or other family members? How much of an impact does it have on your life?
Yeah, Marcel, I'm lucky. I've got a supportive partner, because he understands that there are certain time inputs that are needed. I'm in my late 30s. I haven't had children. And I take my hat off to any business leader who is doing all of this alongside parenting. I don't even know how, but there we go. I think you've just got to, I think there's got to be a conscious effort on health and downtime. And the only way for me to actually do that is like a bit of a workaholic, and having inherited my dad's farming, like really hard work ethic. For me, it's seeing time off as a rejuvenation rather than time away from the business, which is what I'm really passionate about.
Mm.
So I think, like, I never complain about it being Monday morning as a rule. Like, oh, work tomorrow. I just think, like, I'm grateful for work tomorrow, because that's the thing with business. Like, there's always work, but what a privilege. Downtime. It's just like, use it wisely. You know, just high quality time. It
comes across to me, Georgia, that, you know, I know you obviously mentioned that you haven't got children, but it seems to me that your baby is your business. That it comes across to me is that is what's most important to you, and that's how you care for it. You care for others by having a business of your own, so you can do the nice things in life. So I do get that. So obviously, when you have some spare time, what do you like to do? How do you like to unwind?
I love an adventure. I love a new experience, and it doesn't have to be, you know, different countries. Some are exciting, but I do love that. I love travel. I love culture shocks. I love seeing how differently people do things. It's just another extension of it, Mark, like just immersing myself in people's stories and or just these stories that are out there. It fascinates me. But you know, at other times I just love to potter. Like at the moment, last weekend, it was just like I didn't want to be out and about doing loads. I wanted a refilling my cup kind of a weekend. So I've loved my garden, and you know, I love the house, and so ripped the carpet off the stairs and started pulling out there, because we're going to get new carpets and things anyway. So just kind of like, I think as long as there's flow in my world, I'm very happy doing most things, I think. I think we're all like that.
So we get to the big part of the show where it's the trivia round, Georgia. So I ask all my guests these questions. Got some very interesting answers so far. I'm sure yours will be too. So it's a little trivia where we get to know you a bit more about some of your favourite things in a quick fire round. So first question: favourite food?
Oh my God, favourite food? A salad.
Oh,
love a salad.
That's the first one. That's the first time anyone said a salad.
But with no leaves.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
White wine spritzer.
Nice. Favorite band or artist from the world of music?
At the moment, I never have a favorite. It always changes. At the moment, I'm listening to loads of Hosier.
Yeah, I've been to see them live. Pretty good. Yeah.
Jealous.
Favorite TV program or film?
It's got to be something with Will Ferrell in. I'm going to go Step Brothers or Talladega Nights.
Yeah, good film, Step Brothers. Yeah. Favorite place in the world for you?
My garden.
Yep, nice. Favorite famous person?
I don't know. I'm probably going to say Meryl Streep.
Yeah, good one. Favorite author, considering it's your kind of industry?
I know, and that's again a very, very tricky one. This may seem like a cop out, but my great uncle self-published a book in the 1930s. He's called Arthur Moore, and he was a senior on HMS Britannia, and he wrote down all of his memoirs. And I've got the only copy I could find available in the world off eBay.
Oh wow!
I bought for £27. So you know, I think his writing style, I see that come up in my own and also other members of the family, and we have similar interests.
Yeah, well, that's good claim to fame. That biggest pet peeve?
I have so many of these. I get the ick really easily. Probably when people like hawk back snot and swallow it.
Oh right, yeah. Yeah, that is a big pet peeve.
It's not the thing.
Yeah. Any superstitions?
No.
Favorite memory of your life?
Being picked up by my grandmother when I was little, and she used to in the morning, I spent loads of my childhood with my paternal grandmother. She was a huge influence on me, and she used to get me out of bed in the morning and open the curtains and would say hello to everything outside, and then she'd give me a huge squeeze, and I said to her once, "Why do you squeeze me?" And she said, "Because it's love."
Yeah, that's nice. That what inspires you on a daily basis?
My vision for the world that I want to live in.
Yeah. Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
A Mark Twain quote: "Never argue with stupid people. They'll pull you down to their level and beat you with experience."
Yeah, good quote. Yeah. And then the final question, had some very, very interesting answers with this. But 3 guests you would invite to a dinner party.
I'm just going through so many different authors. It would have to be Virginia Woolf. It would have to be Stephen King, and my grandmother.
Yeah. Good, excellent. Georgia, look, thank you for coming on today's episode. It's been great to, discuss your life lessons and get to know you a bit more through personal but also career achievements as well. So a really enjoyable episode. Thank you. So to finish the episode, perhaps you'd like to tell our listeners where they can find you, Right Business Results, and other sort of business interests that you're into at the moment.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate you having me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Georgia Kirke, with an E on the ends, writebusinessresults.com and ClioBooks.ai. If you've wanted to write a book and you've always been put off by the perceived barriers, Clio was designed to take that pain away, whether it's time, money, or ability, or process. Just go to ClioBooks.ai and you can sign up and get in there for free. No card required.
Perfect. Thank you, Georgia.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!